Hi, my name is Samir Mohammed. I'll be doing my presentation on the use of humans for clinical trials, testing new treatments, devices, or drugs on humans. To begin, what are clinical trials? Clinical trials are research studies performed in people that are aimed at evaluating a medical, surgical, or behavioral intervention. They are the primary way that researchers find out if a new treatment, like a new drug or diet or medical device, is safe and effective in people. Often, a clinical trial is used to learn if a new treatment is more effective or has less harmful side effects than a standard treatment. Other clinical trials test ways to find a disease early, sometimes before there are symptoms. Still, other test ways to prevent a health problem. A clinical trial may also look at how to make life better for people living with a life threatening disease or a chronic health problem. Clinical trials sometimes studies the role of caregivers or support groups. In the research that I've found, it discusses how clinical trials is a tool that is very effective and a key research activity with the potential to improve the quality of healthcare in comparison to alternative treatment. Why do people participate in clinical trials? Well, what I have found is that there are many reasons why people choose to join a clinical trial. Some join a clinical trial because the treatments they have tried for their health problems and now work. Others participate because there is no treatment for their health problem. By being part of the clinical trial, by being part of the clinical trial, participants may find out about new treatments before they are even available. Some studies are designed for or can include people who are healthy but want to help find ways to prevent a disease, such as that's very common in their family. And here is a clip. But before the clip in this video, while Bob doesn't have relatives with Alzheimer's, he also has a daughter with Down syndrome, which puts her at an increased risk for developing dementia. He is himself a healthy, control volunteer. He's very motivated by his daughter's condition and his love of science. He also discusses some concerns that may make potential volunteers hesitate to join a study.
Chemical engineer. He says, I like ooh-ah science. He says, some reporter makes a paragraph out of 30 years of work and you read it and go, ooh-ah science. Science is exciting in the big picture, but it really is about that long-term study. I'm one drop of water in a bucket, but it takes thousands of drops to win the fight against dementia. I like to think that my participation in clinical studies is akin to what happened years ago. We don't think about smallpox. Not an issue. I want dementia and Alzheimer's to be that non-thought somewhere down the line. It's that simple for
me. Okay, let's go back. Okay, so after this clip, I chose this video because many people say participating in a clinical trial is a way to play a more active role in their own healthcare. Other people say they want to help researchers learn more about certain health problems, but whatever the motivation is, when you choose to participate in a clinical trial, you become a partner in the scientific discovery. And to your contributor can help future generations lead healthier lives. Major medical breakthroughs could happen without the generosity of clinical trial participants, young and old. Testing drugs in humans. A treatment could be a drug, medical device, or anything such as a vaccine, blood product, or gene therapy. Potential treatments, however, must be studied in laboratories first to determine potential toxins before they can be tried in people. But treatments having acceptable safety profiles and showing the most promise are then moved into clinical trials. And it's important to test that first off and making sure the FDA can officially approve that. And in this other study that I found, it discussed how the FDA has authority over clinical trials for drugs and medical devices. And authority includes studies that are funded by HHS. What are some risks of testing drugs on humans? Some treatments, a treatment, I'm sorry. Some treatments being studied can have unpleasant or even serious side effects. Often these are temporary and end when Often these are temporary and end when the treatment is stopped. Others, however, can be permanent. Some side effects appear during treatment and others may not show up until after the study is over. The risks deepen on the treatment being studied and the health of of the people participating in the trial. All known risks must be fully explained by the researchers before the trial even begins. If the new risk information becomes available during the trial, participants must and should be informed. In this study that I found, it was based on human testing of pesticides and had argued that the benefits of such testing outweigh the hazards, and they attempted to refute claims that human testing is both unproductive and unethical. On this basis alone, human studies have failed in this study. A study with inadequate power to find an effect and its definition by being unethical. This type of study submits subjects to some risk while providing no scientific information. As it states, two major issues in human testing are the relevance of data obtained from adult exposure to risk estimates for children and the scientific validity of short term human studies as predictors of health outcomes such as neurodevelopment, and a study that is poorly designed and cannot produce valid conclusions. Trying to get this. It's okay. Okay. Testing new treatment on humans. And this is an example I wanted to discuss with human testing for new COVID-19 treatment. The medicine, which is not a vaccine, is meant to help to protect people who are already infected with COVID-19 from having it spread further into their bodies. It should last weeks to months, they say. And in this research I just found that stated, it discusses how um, and more than one research push is to find ways to attack COVID 19, including participating in coronavirus vaccine trials that are part of the national push to speed the development process. And there's certainly a possibility that it will work in humans, but it could be fast tracked, but as also it may be months or years. And I chose this as an example because since this is something that's currently going on in the world and how humans are being used for the new COVID treatment, there can be a few people who might not be too comfortable testing and being a part of this treatment. Oops. So, why participate in a clinical trial? Well, by being a part of a clinical trial, participants may find out about new treatments that um, weren't available and some studies that were designed for it, but also because other participants, there's no treatment for their health problems. And this is a chance for them to understand and learn about the new treatment that's available. An example that I discuss is why do some participants participate in HIV clinical trials? And in this study, I found specifically for HIV clinical trials are critical in advancing therapy, but not all patients choose to participate, which that's understandable. The most common motivation for participating was the hope for personal benefit. The second most motivation was the hope to help others. Even though most participants understood the purpose, they believed that their physicians would choose the best treatment for them in a trial. Another example is for accepting to participate in clinical trials for cancer therapy. What I have found in this research is many patients with cancer have benefited from the introduction of new drug and treatment, and this is reflected both in an increase in survival and improved quality of life. And among the factors that have been identified for acceptance of trial participation are the hopes that the new treatment would be a benefit to them and a benefit to others. And however, this reason was closely followed by trust in a doctor. The importance of altruism as a motivating factor. It complements that examines previous studies that examined patients considering hypothetical and non-cancer treatment trials. And it discussed also that altruism and trust in a doctor are seen as important, and many patients presume that the cancer specialist will know exactly how to treat the illness, and they automatically will have trust in the specialist. And trust in the doctor was the second most frequently reason for joining a cancer trial. This finding has remained stable for over a decade and forms an important part of the doctor patient relationship. Okay. What are the four phases of clinical trials? Clinical trials of drugs are usually described based on their phase. The FDA typically requires phase one, two, three, and four trials to be conducted to determine if the drug can be approved for use. So for phase one, um, I'm sorry, before we discuss phase one, clinical trials advance through four phases to test a treatment. Find the appropriate dosage and look for side effects. If after the first three phases, researchers find a drug or other intervention to be safe and effective, the FDA then approves it for clinical use and continues to monitor its effects. So now to discuss phase one trials. It tests an experimental treatment on a small group of often healthy people, maybe 20 to 80 or 20 to 90, to judge its safety and side effects and to find the correct drug dosage. These studies determine, most importantly, the treatment is safe and the doses are increased if there are no severe side effects, and the patients are tested to determine if he or she is responding to the therapy correctly. Okay. Phase two is a trial that uses more people, hundreds to 300 sometimes. While the emphasis in phase one is on safety, the emphasis in phase two is on effectiveness. The phase um, aims to obtain data on whether the drug works in people who have a certain disease or condition. These trials also continue to study safety, including short-term side effects. This phase can last several years. Also, phase two studies evaluate potential efficiency and characterizes treatment benefit for the disease in a convincing manner. And it also is often conducted in multi-institution settings where designs are more than two stages are difficult to manage. Next we're on to phase three. Phase three trial gathers more information about safety and effectiveness, studying different populations and different doses, using the drug in combination with other drugs as well. The number of subjects usually ranges from several hundred to about maybe 3,000 people. If the FDA agrees that the trial results are positive, it will approve the experimental drug or device. Also, it involves many more participants than the previous stages and aims to generate statistically significant data about the safety, and is a full scale evaluation of the treatment. Now, phase four is a phased trial for drugs or devices takes place after the FDA approves their use. A device or drug's effectiveness and safety are monitored in large, diverse populations. And sometimes the side effects of a drug may not become clear until more people have taken it over a longer period of time. And these phase four studies include all studies performed after drug approval and related to approved indication. And the phase four trials take place once the drug has been licensed. The drug is evaluated for longer periods of time and longer numbers of patients and possibly subgroups of patients within the population. But the aim is to establish the long term efficiency and safety of the drug. And this is my presentation on humans, human trial, clinical trials, use of humans for clinical trials. And in my opinion, let me present. And in my opinion, with this all in out, I believe that for those who are considering to be a part of a clinical trial, to really do your research and understand the importance of it and the risks that I have listed and talked about, and understand that you firstly have to have trust in that specialist or that doctor that is doing the treatment or testing new drugs or the new devices. Thank you.